Good afternoon, one and all of you, and very warm welcome to this series of lectures brought to us by Johnson and Johnson, the Fekoshala series. And it's truly a great initiative in the sense that we can all be in the comforts of our workplace and still touch base with each other. What we have laid out for you today afternoon is a series of lectures which is covering the gamut of some of the latest developments in the field of intraocular lenses, and I believe it will be a very interesting session. The good thing about it is that apart from the four speakers, we also have enough time for audience interaction. So I am aware that many of you in the audience are excellent cataract surgeons having undergone the Fekoshala program, and I believe that you would be asking very relevant questions which you would be able to take up at the end of each talk and in the question answer session at the end of the all the four speakers. As far as my financial disclosure is concerned, I am the consultant to J&J as well as Alcon, and the product I am going to be talking about in this lecture is brought out by Johnson & Johnson. Basically today the concepts are completely changed as far as cataract surgery is concerned. Today the current standards as far as cataract surgery is concerned is uncorrected visual acuity for all distances, not for distance alone but for near and intermediate also. And all of us know that the best quality of vision each person has at the age of around 20, and cataract surgery offers us an opportunity not just to enhance the quantity of vision but also the quality of vision and put back the vision around what they enjoyed at the age of 20. Which is the time when they had the best quality of vision. We are addressing the spherical aberration, chromatic aberration, so many other factors. What we also need is immediate restoration of vision. So what we do has to be extremely friendly to the eye as well as to the patient. And today, because many of our patients are undergoing their surgery, are they early 40s or they live well beyond our own professional lifetime, what we do today has to serve them very well for many decades to come. So today cataract surgery is not just vision restorative but vision enhancing. It essentially offers us an opportunity to leave behind the patient with a kind of vision he or she never enjoyed at any point of their lifetime. So for this we have multiple options today. Monofocals have been around for a long time. We have the diffractive multifocals, refractive multifocals have by and large gone out of vogue. Extended depth of focus lenses and extended range of vision lenses, the Symphony being an excellent example with which we all have a wide experience is of course there. Apart from this, the trifocals is also there, and because of their facility to offer good vision for all distances, this seems to be a great way to go. But obviously today we would not prescribe glasses to any patient without correcting his presbyopia if he or she was beyond the age of 40 or 45. So why is it that we are even discussing about prescribing implanting multifocal intraocular lenses, extended depth of vision lenses? It's not just the cost alone, but the fact that very often the quality of vision does go down once you implant any kind of multifocal intraocular lenses. Basically, as shown in this slide, which many of you might have seen earlier, all these multifocal intraocular lenses work on the principle of simultaneous macular perception, and that's the reason there is splitting of light. There are rays of light coming from distance and near. If you see in this particular ray diagram, these rays of light are coming in from a distance, are coming and getting focused onto the fovea, which is essentially the signal. But then there are also rays of light from a near object which is getting focused a little in front because the add power in this particular lens, and they are divergent by the time they reach the retina, and that's the blur that you see around the light, and that's caused the noise. So it is this signal to noise ratio which determines the quality of vision that these patients enjoy, and it is this noise which essentially creates the dysphotopsia that we often face with multifocal intraocular lens implantation. And all the advancements in multifocal technology has been essentially towards reducing the noise and enhancing the signal. So depending upon which company's slides you are using, basically you would find that almost all the multifocal intraocular lenses do give rise to some amount of dysphotopsia, and the complaints of our patients depend upon the neural adaptation which takes place in them. So why is it that we have to live with this dysphotopsia? It's because we buy vision for all distances using the currency of contrast when we talk about multifocal intraocular lenses. It's been our experience that whenever we do something physiological, we mimic physiology, we get excellent results. Like when you have a opaque lens, we take out that lens and implant a natural clear lens. When the intraocular pressure goes up, we bring it down. But multifocality was never in the scheme of things for any mammalian eye. And since either in the cornea or in the lens, that is the reason that whenever we try to introduce multifocal laser treatment onto the cornea or implant multifocal intraocular lenses, there is a price to pay by virtue of the deterioration in the quality of vision. On the other hand, we have this excellent monofocal intraocular lenses that have been available to us, which have been around for a long time. Even to this day, even in advanced practices, I think it's monofocal implants which are implanted in more than 80% of the eyes. When I refer to monofocal, it refers to monofocal as well as the monofocal toric version. So we have this, what are the advantages of a very robust platform that all of us are familiar with, that is the Tecnis intraocular lens. They have the aspheric design with a minus 0.27 Q value, which almost completely compensates for the asphericity on the anterior surface of the cornea. There is also a very high Abbe number in this lens. Because of this, the chromatic aberration is almost completely reduced, and the reduction of the spherical aberration and the chromatic aberration enhances the quality of vision. Because of the characteristics of the lens material, there is very little glistening, having crystal clear optics. The reduced chances of PCO, both because of the material characteristics as well as the squarage of the posterior squarage of the lens. There is reduced capsular phimosis, inherent ability to do that. But the fact remains that apart from the fact that these lenses became foldable, and asphericity was introduced in these monofocal intraocular lenses, very little has really changed as far as monofocal lenses is concerned, as far as the optics are concerned, right from the year 2001. And is there a possibility of enhancing the kind of lenses that are available to us by changing monofocal intraocular lenses? I think, would it be possible to re-engineer the proven Tecnis One platform to gain some intermediate vision? I think with this thought process that the Tecnis Eyhance lens came about, and essentially I think it's a great way to go, in the sense that it's a compromise solution between monofocal and multifocal intraocular lenses, giving the best of both, in the sense that it gives you good quality of vision, at the same time giving you a fair amount of intermediate vision. Let's look at some more detail about these lenses. Basically, when I first used these lenses, one thing which struck me was the sense that I could not make out anything, even under the operating microscope, between the Eyhance and the conventional monofocal lens, the conventional Tecnis lens. And the difference is that it's a ultra microscopic change in the power from the periphery to the center, where there is a mild change in the the anterior surface, because of which there is an improvement in the intermediate vision. Going on to the optics of this lens, there is a gradual power change continuously from the periphery to the center, and this is what gives us a better intermediate vision. And the distance vision this lens gives is comparable to a monofocal intraocular lens without any compromise as far as the quality of vision is concerned, and the kind of dysphotopsia that we are experienced with the diffractive multifocal intraocular lenses. And essentially, because of the Q value being minus 0.27, it reduces the spherical aberration to almost near zero in the conventional cataract surgery patients. The fact remains that except for a very gradual transition from the periphery to the center, almost 85% of the anterior surface of the lens exactly corresponds to the conventional Tecnis One lens, which we are quite familiar with. So the main factor that we need to keep in mind is this lens is not a zonal progressive lens, that is, it's not a refractive multifocal, it does not have any diffractive multifocals, and at the same time there is no spherical aberration that's being changed on the surface of the lens. because of which it almost mimics the quality of vision that a monofocal lens has. And essentially, whatever improvement in intermediate vision occurs, it's because of the change in the very gradual change in the power from the periphery to the center of the lens. That is the reason when you look at the defocus curve, what is shown here is in blue, and that seems to be much wider compared to a Tecnis monofocal lens. And it is this width of this particular lens, the defocus curve, which offers a much larger sweet spot that allows us to get away with even small errors in the implantation of this intraocular lens. Because of this wider sweet spot, even if we have not landed at absolute emmetropia, the patients experience reasonably good distance as well as intermediate vision. But for the quality of vision to be good, it is extremely important that our biometry is good, and we by and large arrive at emmetropia once we implant these lenses. Just looking at a quick video of this intraocular lens being implanted, as I already mentioned, it's no different from the monofocal lens, the Tecnis 1 lens. You can see that it's a 6 mm optic, 13 mm overall diameter, excellent glistening optics, and it comfortably goes in through a 2.2 to 2.4 millimeter incision, and that's the intraocular lens being implanted. And it's no different from the day-to-day single-piece lenses that all of us implant and we are quite familiar with. That's one of the advantages of this lens, in the sense that any one of us can adapt it almost instantaneously once you are comfortable with phacoemulsification and implantation of more single-piece aspheric lenses. We essentially did a very controlled study and basically evaluated both the near as well as intermediate vision. You can see at 40 centimeters and 60 centimeters that it was done, apart from, of course, the evaluation of the distant visual acuity. Basically, we have been using these lenses fairly regularly, but as a part of our initial study, we had done a total number of 8 eyes. Bilateral implantation was done in 2 patients, and the other were unilaterally implanted. And we have a 4 months data on these 8 eyes. The rest of them being more recent, I do not want to go into the details. Some of the factors that I want to emphasize is that a couple of these patients already had one of these patients had bilateral Tecnis Eyhance implantation. And what was most interesting was that the uncorrected distant visual acuity was 6/9, and most importantly, the uncorrected intermediate distant visual acuity. In this lens, what we are looking at is uncorrected intermediate distant visual acuity. I would like to emphasize that was 20/32 and 20/40, and bilaterally implanted this patient could read 20/20 at a distance of 60 centimeters, and that's what this lens is expected to achieve. And there were eyes where the patient already had a Tecnis 1 implantation, and the second eye received a Eyhance, and these patients also were quite comfortable for intermediate visual acuity. And this is another patient where you find with the single piece eye had a 20/80, and the Tecnis Eyhance had a 20/50 vision, and then these patients they were quite comfortable. The most important factor was that the average defocus curve that we saw in these cases was there was a minus 1.5 diopters of a broad plateau, and that is extremely important. The vision rapidly deteriorates beyond that, but up to a distance of about 60 centimeters from infinity, these patients seem to experience a very good visual acuity, and that's what we are looking for when we are talking about intermediate vision. It was my thought, and some of my colleagues have told me that these patients do have some good near vision also, but I did not, this is not our experience in the limited number of eyes that we did. These patients require almost about 1.25 diopters as far as near vision is concerned. Another thought process that might come to our minds is, why not use mini monovision, that is, make one eye minus 0.75 or minus 0.5 diopters myopic, and thus steal some amount of near vision. That is also something that does not happen. Basically, what we have to promote this lens is as a concept of giving excellent intermediate vision, and in case the patient needs near vision, they need to be primed to the thought that they need some kind of readers that they can use as add-ons. So as you can see over here, with a minus 1.5 diopters of defocus, almost all our eyes that we did, all our cases that we did, maintained a 6.6 as a 6.9 visual acuity, and that I think is a great way to go. But when the defocus dropped down to minus 2.5 diopters, you can see there is a fair amount of drop as far as the visual acuity is concerned. So I would caution you to the fact that when you use these lenses, please do not promise excellent near vision. This is essentially meant for distance and intermediate vision. As far as you prime your patients for that, you will find that you are satisfying their needs, meeting their expectations quite adequately. And it's intermediate vision which is most important today, I believe, because practically, as you can see, for a 70-year-old, it's not just computer vision or laptop vision that we are talking about. We must understand that many of our senior citizens are not using computers on a day-to-day basis all the time. But whether it's driving, including at night driving, where there's no drop in the quality of vision, but they can comfortably look at the dashboard as well as the road ahead, reading price tags when shopping, watching TV, including reading subtitles, cooking and eating, playing cards, reading at a computer, tablet or a smartphone, which is often emphasized, playing a piano, or feeling more confident while walking because you do not have the disadvantage of multifocality, or all concepts of good quality vision with a reasonably good quality of intermediate vision. And I think that's something which will satisfy many of our patients. So essentially, what is Eyhance all about? It's not a multifocal intraocular lens. It's a modern or a super monofocal lens where you get all the advantages, all the good qualities of a monofocal intraocular lens with reasonably good intermediate vision, or rather very good intermediate vision, with a requirement for readers for near vision. It is not a substitute for multifocal lens, and because, as we saw in the defocus curve, it has a fairly broad landing area. Even if you have small errors as far as the biometry is concerned, these patients end up with reasonably good distant visual acuity and intermediate visual acuity. But it's always a good idea to hit the target, because that's what satisfies our patients most often and also enhances the quality of visions that these patients have. The most important aspect of this lens is that the dysphotopsia that these patients experience is just comparable to monofocal intraocular lenses, and you are not most often surprised with the kind of chair time that our patients demand sometimes after multifocal implantation. So it is best to counsel it as a monofocal intraocular lens. So what are my primary indications for this particular lens? I think you might have heard of the features of this lens, talked about intermediate lens quite often. But the most important thought that comes to our mind when we are presented this lens is, I already have such a large array of lenses that are available to me, the extended depth of vision lenses, the monofocal lenses, the aspheric lenses, the accommodative lenses, the multifocal lenses, the trifocals. What is the new addition of lens that has come up? Where do I exactly fit this in? I think I believe that every patient who goes in for a monofocal lens is a possible candidate for Eyhance lens. So active person but not much reading requirements. My usual, when I see my cataract surgery patients on the first post-operative day, when I give them an appointment, I ask them, do you want it 1 week later or 6 weeks later? If you are very much into reading, if reading is very important to you, then please come back 1 week later, I will give you glasses. Otherwise, I can meet you 6 weeks later. Most often what I find, except for some of those regular office goer workers in bank, most often these patients tell me that reading is not so much important. Sometimes the spouse telling me, no, doctor, he or she doesn't read so much. We can very well come back after 6 weeks. So there are quite a lot of patients for whom reading is not so important. So if essentially they are looking at excellent quality of vision, excellent quality of life, but not too much of reading, and in case they are tuned to the fact that they might have to do readers whenever reading is essential, we can go ahead and implant these lenses. And quite often it's my optometrists who do all the advice to these patients. By the time they come to me, they are already tuned for multifocal intraocular lenses. I do tell them that dysphotopsia is the price that you pay with these intraocular lenses, and essentially because the glare halos is something some of you might experience. Some of these patients, when they hear that, immediately say that, doctor, in that case, I would rather stay away from multifocals and opt for a monofocal. These are exactly the patients I would tell them, I have a compromise solution for you. I would go ahead and implant this Eyhance lens, which will give you extremely good intermediate vision, most often offer you freedom from glasses, but at the same time, in case you want to do serious reading, you might have to use readers. There are also other patients in whom we are averse to the idea of implanting multifocal intraocular lenses, because there is always a price to be paid as far as drop in contrast sensitivity is concerned. There are patients of glaucoma, there are patients who have undergone prior refractive surgery, patients who have ARMD, who are thought to be less than optimal as far as multifocal intraocular lenses are concerned. These are patients, instead of monofocal intraocular lenses, we could offer a Eyhance lens. Just yesterday, I had a patient whom I had done LASIK treatment almost 15 years back, came for cataract surgery, was extremely keen on vision for all distances without glasses. But I advised her that it would be a good choice to go for Eyhance lens, because I was not willing to marry a multifocal cornea with a multifocal intraocular lens. I do believe that every patient of monofocal intraocular lens is a possible candidate for this Eyhance lens, and it's good that we have one more addition to the significant armamentarium we have as far as intraocular lenses are concerned. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
So that was a very informative talk to all of us. I hope I'm audible to all of you. There are some questions which we could ask Ramamurthy at this point of time, some of the questions which you all have posed. The first question is, how do you find the dominant eye before a cataract surgery?
So basically, I think we're not looking at the dominance of the eye as far as Eyhance lens is concerned. This is a lens which has to be implanted bilaterally, but just in case you need to look at the dominance of the eye, all you need to give is a pinhole or a small hole in the paper and ask the patient to go ahead and see through one of the eyes. Invariably, they will take you to that dominant eye and look through that. That should give us a reasonable idea as far as the dominant eye is concerned. But I personally most often operate on the, whenever it's a question of dominance that needs to be handled, I operate on the eye with a greater amount of cataract, aiming at emmetropia. And having achieved, if I am on target, depending upon the comfort level with which they are able to handle different distances, I play around in the second eye. Because most often, in spite of our explaining the concept of dominance to these patients, they want the eye with poorer vision to get operated first. Once you address that, then you can implant the, adjust the power as far as the second eye is concerned.
The second question is, the regular monofocals also have fair enough intermediate vision. How is Eyhance any different?
I think that's a good question, because there are still, we come across patients who have got regular monofocals, who come back to us and say that, doctor, when you suggest that they go for presbyopic glasses, they say, I'm quite all right, I'm managing to read. Sometimes it's just that the reading they do is not too much, but more often it might be extremely small pupils, it might be a question of significant amount of spherical aberration that they have. That's the reason when you are using aspheric intraocular lenses and completely compensating for the corneal aberration, near vision is the price they pay. And it could also be the diffraction that occurs at the edge of these pupils that could offer them some amount of near vision. But you all know that in a monofocal lens there is a single power, and if in case they are enjoying a certain amount of near vision, it's because of one of these factors, and they are just fortunate to have it. But in the Eyhance, it's optically you are enhancing intermediate vision by adding a certain amount of power from the periphery to the center, and that's the reason these lenses are somewhat better than monofocal lenses when we are talking about intermediate vision.
The other question is Tecnis Enhance having any problems of glare and halos, and is it suitable for drivers?
I think I did address that during my talk. Basically, the basic differentiating factor between this lens and the multifocal intraocular lens is that there are no diffractive rings, there is no variation in the spherical aberration of the lens from the periphery to the center, there is no zonal progression. Because of these factors, it almost completely mimics the monofocal lenses. If you ask me whether patients occasionally have problems of negative dysphotopsia with a monofocal intraocular lens, yes. But otherwise, these patients are likely to, the quality of vision that they enjoy is similar to a monofocal intraocular lens, and there is no compromise.